Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to watch our presentation today. Me and my colleague Miranda, we are representing the peer support team at Health and Wellness, and we are going to be talking about debunking some common myths regarding mental health, and then we're going to tell you some more about the peer support team, what we're all about, and how you can access us. So again, my name is Hana. My pronouns are she and her.
My name is Miranda, and my pronouns are she, her, or they, them. Okay, so we want to start with an acknowledgement of the traditional land here at the University of Toronto. We wish to acknowledge this land on which the University of Toronto operates. For thousands of years, it has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and most recently, the Mississaugas of the Credit River. Today, this meeting place is still the home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have this opportunity to work on this land. And now we're going to get into our comfort agreement. A comfort agreement basically is something we start all of our peer support sessions with, and it's a set of guidelines that create a safe, non-judgmental space for all students and whoever joins us to feel comfortable. To begin with, the first thing on here is it's a judgment-free zone, like I said. So we want to respect each other's perspectives and not really bash each other, no judging really. Uh, Having an open mind is super important. We want to be active listeners and give each other the chance to speak. And we want to be mindful of inclusive language such as pronouns. In addition, we want to follow Zoom etiquette, so mute your mics to decrease noise. We'll let you know when you can unmute your mic. Use the chat to ask any questions. If you notice we're running out of time, the chat is definitely perfect to be there. We will be monitoring the chat, and while the other person's talking, we'll definitely be answering questions in there. And if you have anything else to add, like access needs, anything else, let us know throughout the presentation at all, and we'll make sure to bring it up to anyone else in the presentation.
Okay, so to start off, we're going to play a fun game of Kahoot to debunk some common myths about mental health. So if you could all just log into or go on your Safari and go onto kahoot.it on your phones. The reason we want you to be on your phones is you're going to be seeing the questions on the screen here at Zoom, and we want you to be able to answer the questions separately on a different device. Yeah, kahoot.it, it should look like this, and then there's a spot where you can put in the pin. There we go. So if everyone could just log on to Kahoot. Okay, seems like everyone's on it. Perfect.
Alrighty, let's get started with our first question.
So the first question is, mental illnesses are real illnesses. So do you think this is a myth or it's a fact? Okay, wonderful.
Mental illnesses are in fact real illnesses. The words we use to describe mental illnesses have changed greatly over time. What hasn't changed is the fact that mental illnesses are not the regular ups and downs of life. Mental illnesses create distress, they don't go away on their own, and they are real health problems with effective treatments. When someone breaks their arm, we wouldn't expect them to just get over it, nor would we blame someone if they needed a cast, sling, or other help in their daily life while they recovered. On to the next question.
Okay, so the next question is, mental illnesses will never affect me. So do you think this is a myth or it's a fact? Okay, so this is actually a myth. So, all of us will be affected by mental illness in one way, shape, or another. Researchers have estimated that as many as 1 in 5 Canadians in any given year will struggle with mental health problems or illnesses. So you may not be experiencing any mental health issues yourself, but it's likely that you will have a friend, a colleague, a family member, or someone else who is struggling with these challenges. So ultimately, even if you don't experience these struggles yourself, you will likely be affected by mental illness throughout your life. And just on that note, if you are struggling with any mental health related issues, or if you know of anyone who is struggling with these issues and you don't really know how to deal with it, or it's stressing you out and you want to just talk that out, again, the peer support group is a safe space where you can just come in and talk about those issues. And of course, we'll talk about what peer support is a little bit later in the presentation. Okay, the next question is mental illnesses are just an excuse for poor behavior. So, do you think this is a myth or it's a fact?
Okay, so it is true that some people who experience mental illnesses may act in ways that are unexpected or seem strange to others, but mental illnesses being just an excuse for poor behavior is a myth. No one chooses to experience a mental illness. People who experience a change in their behavior due to a mental illness may feel extremely embarrassed or ashamed around others. It's also true that people with a history of mental illnesses are like anyone else. Like, they are like anyone else. And they may make poor choices just like anyone else or do something unexpected for reasons just like anyone else, unrelated to their symptoms of their illness. So, yes, sometimes it can be um, symptoms of their mental illness, but a lot of the times it's them being human. On to our next question.
So, the next question is people who experience mental illnesses may be better at managing stress than people who haven't experienced mental health related issues. So, do you think this is a myth or a fact? Okay, so this was a tricky one, but this is actually a fact. And the reason for this is, of course, stress impacts well being, but this is true for everyone, regardless of whether or not you struggle with mental health related problems or not. So, the reason that people who experience mental illnesses may be better at managing stress than people who haven't is people who experience mental illnesses may actually have learned coping skills for stress management or problem solving because of the problems that they go through. And because of that, they may actually be better at coping with the normal ups and downs of life. So this way they can take care of their stress before it affects their well-being.
On to the next question.
Talking about suicide puts the idea of suicide into vulnerable people's minds and increases their risk of suicide. So do you think this is a myth or a fact?
Okay, so, talking about suicide, putting the idea of suicide into vulnerable people's minds and increases their risk of suicide is actually a myth. There is a widespread stigma associated with suicide, and as a result, many people are afraid to speak about it. Talking about suicide not only reduces the stigma, but also allows individuals to seek help, rethink their opinions, and share their story with others. We all need to talk more about suicide. Debunking these common myths about suicide can hopefully allow individuals to look at suicide from a different angle, an angle of understanding and compassion for an individual who is internally struggling. Maybe they're struggling with a mental illness, or maybe they are under extreme pressure and do not have healthy coping skills or a strong support system. As a society, we should not be afraid to speak up about suicide, to speak up about mental illness, or to seek out treatment for an individual who is in need. Eliminating the stigma starts by understanding why suicide occurs and advocating for mental health awareness. within our communities. There are suicide hotlines, mental health support groups, online community resources, and many mental health professionals who can help any individual who is struggling with unhealthy thoughts and emotions. And if you're struggling with having this conversation, or maybe if you're worried about someone and you don't know what to do next, peer support is a great place to come to. We can help navigate, and we can help give you a safe space to talk about these things. On to our next question.
Children can't have mental illnesses like depression, those are adult problems. Okay, so this one is actually a really common myth. Until recently, it was widely believed that young people couldn't get depression, because what most people thought was, what do children have to be depressed about? But this has changed a lot, especially over the past couple years, as scientists came to understand that depression has physiological and genetic roots, and it is also a response to bullying, family conflict, trauma, neglect, all of which are things that children could be going through. So, unfortunately, though, with that said, less than 20% of children and adolescents with diagnosable mental health problems receive the treatment that they need, meaning over 80% of young children aren't seeking treatment for their mental health problems. Early mental health support can help a child before their problems interfere with other developmental needs. And this is definitely something to be mindful of, especially during this time, during COVID, where everyone's at home. You may be spending some more time with your siblings at home. And with isolation and all the stresses of the pandemic, this is just something to be mindful of, that if they are struggling with some issues, they are definitely valid in that. And this can definitely be an issue that they're struggling with.
And on to the last question. People can and do recover from mental illness. Alrighty. Okay. So, people can and do recover from mental illness is a fact. Today, there are many different kinds of treatments, services, and supports that can help. No one should expect to feel unwell forever. The fact is, people who experience mental illnesses can and do lead productive, engaged lives. They work, volunteer, or contribute their unique skills and abilities to their communities. Even when people experience mental illnesses that last a long time, they can learn how to manage their symptoms so they can get back to their goals. If someone continues to experience many challenges, it may be a sign that different approaches or supports are needed. And this is definitely recovery. It's something that's really big that we talk about in peer support. And peer support in general, what peer support is, oh yeah, the Kahoot is done, so you can close your phone browser, and then we'll talk about what peer support is. It's a place where you can feel supported, a non-judgmental, safe space where you can expect a listening ear, where you can expect someone to hear whatever you have to say, whether it's bad, whether it's good. It's a place where you can connect to resources, connect to each other, connect to a sense of community. And it's also a place that you can learn coping skills if you'd like to. It's really important that for us that we recognize that we are human, and validate and encourage hope, and validate thoughts and emotions that may be difficult, and validate thoughts and emotions that are good. This is definitely huge for mental health. And mental health can affect everyone. Mental health is part of our health. It's good, bad, whatever you're feeling. And that's a place for us to talk about.
So, just to go over some frequently asked questions we do get as peer supporters, the first one being, when is the peer support drop in? So, like we said, this is a resource offered by the Health and Wellness Center, and the drop in sessions are every single week on Tuesdays and Fridays from 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. The second question is, do I have to book an appointment or stay the whole time? So you do have to book an appointment for these drop-in sessions, and it's a very quick process. All you have to do is send an email to the email we provided on the slide. and with your name and email. And then regarding staying the whole time, definitely you don't need to. It's an hour and a half. It's completely up to you. Again, we're here to support you. So if after half an hour you feel like you've gotten everything you wanted off your chest and you feel a little bit lighter, you can definitely leave. Or if you don't like the service and you want to leave a little bit early, that's perfectly fine as well. Or if you want to stay for the full session, maybe talk to some other peers, listen to other people's problems and struggles, definitely you're more than welcome to do so. How is peer support different from counseling and therapy? So, like Miranda mentioned, we are trained in mental health support and all of that, but end of the day, we are not counselors, we're not social workers, and we just want to be. We want you to know that. That's why we try not to provide a lot of advice during our sessions, but rather we try to just create a supportive environment where you can just talk about anything that's on your mind, share some coping techniques that might have worked for us in the past, and just have a safe environment where we can have these conversations. But the main difference being that we are not counselors or therapists, and what we found is some folks are actually more comfortable coming to peer support rather than therapy, and the reason for that is just the dynamics are so different, right? You're not going to a professional and stuff like that. We are all equal in the peer support group. The fourth question, do I have to share? So again, this being a safe and supportive environment is completely up to you. You can share as much or as little as you want, or even if you're just coming for the first time and you would just prefer to sit in and listen to how the session goes and to listen to your fellow peers, you can definitely do that. Again, it's anything that you're comfortable with. If you do want to share, of course, that's why we're here. And the last one, do I have to have a mental health problem? You definitely don't need to have a diagnosable mental health problem. Mental health struggles, no matter how small or big, all of them are valid. And talk about anything, we're definitely here to listen to you, even if again, like I said before, if you have a friend, family member, or someone of the sort struggling with any kind of mental health problems and you're worried about them and you want to talk about that, even in that case you can drop in. Or if you just want to drop in to say hi, you can definitely do that as well. So just some some very important things and values we have here at Peer Support. We want to share that with you. So the first one being, we don't have to fake it at peer services. And definitely this is one of our core values. We want you to be able to share anything that you want. You don't have to fake being well, or put on a fake smile here. This is again a safe space where you can just completely be yourself. All us peer supporters, we have lived experience with mental health related problems, so definitely we understand you and we want to be here to support you. So definitely you don't have to be fake at all during these peer support services.
We can say what we need after years of being told what's good for us. And I think that is super important, especially when we are used to a system where it's teachers or family or someone telling us maybe we should try this and maybe we should try this. We're not doing it the right way. When we can actually be in a place and say, "This is what I need," and we can talk about ways to align what our life looks like with what we need.
The third one being recovery and hope is reflected in the Aboriginal worldview. Holistic health being the balance with the spiritual, mental, emotional, and the physical. And what we want to really highlight here is your mental and emotional health are a very core and important part of your overall health. And we're here to support you with those aspects of it.
And professionals forget we know how to live with mental illness as we do it each day. That's another huge thing to do with, especially do with peer support. We're not psychiatrists, psychologists, therapists, social workers. We are individuals that have lived the struggle, that are maybe even still living through it, and we understand where you're coming from and we get what you're feeling.
And the last one being peer support is not about how ill we are, but about how well we are. Again, like end of the day, if you're coming to these services, chances are you are struggling with some issues. But end of the day, we want to just reassure you that there is hope. Definitely, there is hope for recovery, for getting better, by offering you coping techniques, different resources, and all of that. We just want to focus on your well being when you come to our services.
And so next we're going to introduce our team. This is the peer support team. There is actually 8 of us. Um, you'll see one of these faces if you come to a peer support session.
Okay, so just to end off, we want to let you know of some resources other than peer support if you're interested in them. So the Health and Wellness Center, of course, other than peer support, also offers a lot of other resources that you can use. So if you go on the Health and Wellness website, which is just written down here, you can get access to just the wide list of all the different resources that they offer. So this can be personal one-on-one counseling, or it can be different group therapies, different workshops, and all of that stuff. And even if you want to sign up for peer support, if you go on the Health and Wellness Center, you will see the link for our resources as well.
And then we wanted to finish with some other resources. So if you want to screenshot these, feel free to do so, and you can even do some more research on these resources. They're great resources, especially for mental health. And My SSP is actually a great app where you can. It has immediate access to counseling support for 24/7, and there are ways of accessing My SSP if you are an international student and you're not currently in Canada. On our website, we do have information about how to access that if you're outside of Canada. And that concludes our presentation. If anyone wants to stick around for questions, feel free to do so. We are going to stop recording now. Thank you all for joining us today. We do appreciate that you've been here, and we hope that you can take something great away from this today.